One can think also about cross-fertilization between different, completely different areas. For example, robotics and your activity. Because from one side, if you want to build a sentient robot or an intelligent robot, you need to understand very well the human brain. On the other side, in the process of building the brain of a robot, you could grasp some hints on how our brain works.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think it's exactly like this, that trying to build the robot, you have to think at the brain in some of these principles. And there's also some interesting additional approach already, that, how do they call it, something like robotics neuroscience, so that you can then try to figure out certain movements, sequences, for example, in robots, and try to see how they self-organize while the robot is taught to do that. And then you learn something quite important, how the environment might have shaped us, even us humans.
Yeah.
There's some nice results.
Yeah, true. And about your research, how do you think that, breakthroughs in your research could impact the everyday life of the people? You were mentioning the cure for neurodegenerative diseases, or which other fields can be impacted?
Yeah, okay. I think this is the one important thing, is of course understanding diseases and trying to find some treatments for them, but it's not exactly our field of study is finding these treatments. But when the information increases, then people can become better in this as well. But then also teaching, I think, is important, so that if we understand better how the human works, we may contribute strongly to teaching methods. So when we understand how the memory works, so we can have better and better teaching methods. And maybe also one thing is that when we know that everybody has somehow their own brains and how they are shaped by the environment, including other families and everything, so maybe we become a little bit more tolerant to differences between different people. So that's something I think might be also so very useful.
Because at the end, the working of the brain, it's the same. So.
Yeah, in fact, we have. So I often say that so everybody has own brain, and so we think that also everybody has own mind. But since we live in the same societies, our brains have lots of similarities, and our minds have lots of similarities. So in fact, our brains and minds are not so private as we would like to think, and there are some extremely many things that are shaped in our brains because of the environmental issues, and that should be understood better.
So you think that?
Yeah, it's not like that. Like if there's a baby is born, that you just wait and see what comes out of the baby. It's just the environment which will shape the baby. As we know that if we take a baby to Japan or to Finland, same baby, so after 3 years that baby will speak totally different languages already, for example.
Yeah, of course. So you think that having different environmental stimulus can shape the brain, the functioning of the brain in a different way?
Yeah, it certainly does. So that I think it's important to think that the brains are not isolated, but brains are all the time in connection with the environment. And then we should more than think about the shaping of the brain alone, we should think about the shaping of the whole, as we say, action perception loop. So how we act to the environment and how we get information from there. So, for example, all tools that we use and whatever we do, they will always change our brains. So we never, there's a saying in our field that we say that you never use the same brain twice. It's always changed a little bit. Yeah.
Interesting. About the policy realm, which policies do you think should be implemented in order to to cope with the challenges you mentioned, or to boost the research in your field?
Yeah, I think in our field it's the same, almost same as in any field currently, but there's certainly, of course, there's like funding policies, and in funding there's two main different policies. One is funding certain projects, and the other is to fund people. And I will very much vote for trying to fund people and good teams, scientific teams, so that not only ask for the best projects with, of course, scientists already become quite skilled in writing good proposals and with very elegant words, but it would be important to try to fund good teams and good people. And then the other thing is, of course, to provide long-term funding. That's at least here, and I think it's all everywhere in Europe. There's been scientists are now currently struggling quite much with administration. So you have to apply money, and then you have to report on the money. And if you had a little bit longer term funding, so there will be much more time for that stuff that scientists can do. That means the research and thinking. There should be also some time for.
Because, for example, if they are founded every 3 years, you have to spend maybe 1 year instead of doing research, but just doing proposals and administrative stuff.
That means like a 30% making administration is not. It's not yet an overestimate how much is used for administration. Maybe it's there was some study some time ago that it says that it's something like around 40% of scientists are using of the time to different reporting about personal issues and their personnel, and because in recruiting people and is much more complicated nowadays than it used to be. Of course, there are good things there as well, but maybe we are still in a transition phase where we have not been able to recruit such professional scientific administrators, so that scientists are now using lots of their time for administration.